Hello, my name is David Crane. I'm chairing the meeting tonight. This is the January 2023 meeting, no, 2023 meeting of the CB3's Transportation, Public Safety, Sanitation, and Environment Committee. It looks like we're going to take the items in order. Unusual, but that's what we're going to do tonight. So that's good. If you want to use the chat to identify yourself or your affiliation, it'll be recorded as part of the meeting. We are not going to use the chat for discussion. It just gets distracting. In fact, we'll shut it down if it ends up becoming too distracting for whoever is monitoring it. If you need help in there, you could also ask for help, but it's basically for those two things: help and stating your affiliation. And so last month's meetings, which were on the vote sheet last month, is there any changes that the committee thought we needed on any of the motions we had last month? Seeing none, we've approved those minutes. Can we have a roll call for committee members, please?
David Crane.
Here.
Joshua Waterman.
Here.
Wendy Lee here. Lee Berman.
Here.
Tariq Darrell.
Here.
Danielle Hernandez.
Here.
Michelle Coopersmith.
Here.
David Louie. David. Richard Ropiak. Richard. July Yang.
Yes, here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let me explain a little bit about what I understand about this first item. Here's what it reads: resident concerns regarding possible plaza at Avenue B and 8th or 9th Streets, and concerns regarding current summer programming at that location. We've been told that there is no proposal for a public plaza, for a pedestrian plaza at that location. But of course, these things can change, but there is no proposal. So we are not taking comments tonight on a proposed plaza. What we would like to hear is your opinions about why that might be a good or a bad thing. I anticipate there'll be a discussion about there's a lot of sources of noise. I mean, I lived at that location for over 2 decades, and I moved late in the pandemic. I'm familiar with what happens in Tompkins Square Park and what was going on with the current programming at the open streets location. So where are we? So I don't anticipate that the committee would pass any resolutions tonight. What I do think is that DOT, who is here, pretty certain that DOT has someone here. If not, yes, thank you. That they'll be hearing this as input for whatever they might be considering. And like I said, I don't believe that they actually are considering putting a plaza there, but I welcome, we're going to have a period here where we're going to hear opinions, from the public on that and their experience is what you're hearing. And also we're going to hear from people who we'll hear from people who are involved in creating some of the public programming that is there. So it's an opportunity. I know that there are challenges. There have been challenges for a few years now getting enforcement on pretty much anything. And that I am pretty certain is contributing to the problem as well. So I don't want to go into too many nitty-gritty details, so I'll wait until we sort of get to when the committee might start talk about different kinds of proposals and how the agencies deal with community boards traditionally on these things. So is that clear? Committee, mostly that was for the committee because they don't really know what this agenda item is about. I know that the public is pretty prepared to talk. So we'll hear from the public now. If you would raise hands. Let me find a view where I can see hands being raised. There's actually a function inside of it. It's under at the very bottom of your screen, reactions. Is that where it is?
Yes.
Yeah. Your quick reactions are something that says raise hand. I just rose my hand. You can see that there's a little hand symbol up in there. That's what I'm going to go by. There is a way for me to see, oh, I have to go down under chat. Oh, participants.
Participants.
I click participants. That's me talking to myself, and I can see all the hands raised in roughly the order that they were raised, I think. Great. All right. Please try to keep yourself to 2 minutes. Is there a way that there's a lot of people lined up to speak. Is there a way that we can, Wendy, that you can display? I didn't ask you to prepare this, so feel free to say no, but display a timer. Just because I see a dozen hands already, and we're not going to stay here all night. And this will keep
Sure
people
thing.
tight. You do have way? Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they start speaking, just click start. And if you would try to wrap up whoever's speaking, Carol's iPad. Please unmute again.
Okay, great. Hi, this is Carol Kostick. Hi, David and everyone. I live around the corner from Avenue B and probably walk down there on a daily basis. And the Open Streets has really improved the quality of life for using Avenue B. As imperfect as it's been in terms of enforcement, it really has slowed down the traffic. It's reduced traffic. It's made it much more useful as a street for a pedestrian or a bicyclist. I've taken advantage of some of the programming that's been offered. I took a Zumba class. I've gone to music. I don't know, what the plaza is or isn't, but I do think that closing Avenue B for a couple of blocks, some weekends in the year has been great. It's given us a chance to do other things in the city, other programming that's not available elsewhere. I've seen where if somebody needs to get through, there are people manning the barricades. People have gotten through to the church for weddings, funerals, whatever. So it hasn't impeded necessary traffic when there have been activities. So I encourage the Transportation Committee to be friendly towards maintaining and increasing use of Avenue B as an open street. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. If you can reset that, and Laura, please, Laura Sewell.
Hi, I had understood that Ryan and I were going to give a little brief presentation, but I'm happy to just give my bit now.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot.
No worries. Would you like us to do that?
Can we stop the clock for a second? How brief would that be? I mean, I'm happy to do it, and I'm sorry.
It's brief. I have 30 seconds of talking, and Ryan has a few slides to show.
Why don't you guys do that if it's going to be that brief, and then we'll go on with speakers. That is useful. So, public, this is the programming that is coming from EVCC. There have been other events as part of programming that were not organized by EVCC, and there, of course, are things coming out of the park, some of which are approved and some of which have not been approved. And so like performances is more than one type. Go, Laura.
Okay, thank you, David. I appreciate the credit to my organization, but while I am the director of the East Village Community Coalition, this program is actually not being presented by EVCC. We got involved very early on in the open street because just about everyone asked us to, because of our proximity and previous relationships with city agencies when communications were tough at the beginning. But I had said no, because we just lack the capacity. We're very small. But I was continued to be approached by various electeds and agencies and volunteer members of the community until I finally said, bring me a list that shows me you can do this and I'll talk to the agencies. So I'm serving in a personal capacity here. We had at first the grassroots organization simply put up barriers, maintained the barriers when they fell apart, constructed them, all of that stuff. I did that through summer 2021. In 2021, as the partner of the DOT community partner of the Open Street, the Lower Side Open Streets Community Coalition was asked to encourage to provide programming, given some budget, a very small, not nearly enough. So we reached out to people we knew in the area who already did programming, such as Ryan at Fab. We started working with her in April, and it was a great experience. We closed almost every block. It was a learning experience for us. So we closed almost every block, and then we figured out what worked. You know, some of the traffic patterns were difficult because you were literally cutting off someone's access to their entire block or their means of egress. You know the two streets that T-bone at the park and the two-way street that's a dead end at 13th that goes into the Campos Plaza. So that was our learning year, and we were approached by the 14th Street Y, who didn't have anywhere, hadn't been able to exercise in public altogether. They'd been only over Zoom, so they came out and did some programming. So we were really serving a function for, the programming was serving a function for exercising and cultural interaction in the street. We continued in 2022, and we unfortunately we started hearing some complaints in August of 2022 after kind of doing this for 2 years. So I'm very sensitive to that. A lot of you who know me from SLA know that I'm very sensitive to residential concerns. But I would like to invite Ryan to show a little bit about what we do, just for some, what she's been doing, just for some context, adding that we've also been serving seniors from Sirovich Center, who's been coming out to exercise and all of that. And I'm sorry, we do not have any updates from DOT. I can share that it is well known among other open streets groups that they're kind of behind citywide in implementing what's already been through the community board process. And as far as we know, there's no design right now. So that's, I just want to make sure people know that I don't have information that they're lacking. And we will certainly work with the community board as we have from the beginning. Susan was very helpful working with the fire department and other agencies that were impacted, and we were able to reach a compromise. So we're here, everybody knows where to find me. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to Ryan, if she could share her screen and show some slides.
Be great.
Yeah, Ryan, you should be able to share. I made you co-host. There you go.
Great. Thank you. Thanks. I'm Ryan Gillum. I'm the executive director of Fourth Arts Block, or Fab NYC. And I'm going to sort of talk you through the programming, but all the slides that you'll see are from Avenue B programs that we've offered. So we're a team of artists and organizers, and our mission is to preserve, strengthen, and grow the cultural vibrancy of the Lower East Side. We were founded in 2001 as an anti-displacement effort by artists on East 4th Street. We eventually were successful in creating permanent homes for arts organizations on that block. This is a few members of our staff working on Avenue B. We currently now, Fab serves the entire Lower East Side, and that corresponds to CB3 boundaries. And we do public programming. We have a membership of 45 cultural organizations. We founded and organized Lower East Side History Month, and we're an arts partner often on community issues. One of our core values is cultural equity. I think we all know that the changes in the Lower East Side over past decades have done work to further marginalize traditionally marginalized parts of our community, especially immigrant and POC communities. So as affordability of space and the kind of growing income gaps that exist in the community. So one of the things that we are always trying to address through Avenue B is to think about how we can rebuild a community that's diverse and inclusive. We activate public spaces with those ideas. We center cultures and histories of traditionally marginalized people in our programming, and we're looking to strengthen the experience of community and the sense of belonging through the arts. We became a partner on Avenue B programming in May 2021. We program Saturday afternoons, generally from 2 to 5, with a mix of performance and hands-on arts activities that can be done by people of all ages. We also have hosted, along with these, sometimes had more exhibits or special events on occasion. We came into joining LOSC because we were very interested in supporting the Open Street Initiative and the expansion of public space in the Lower East Side. We think that's a critical need. We also know that these new open spaces, especially on streets, they need to develop a practice that invites the public in to use them. And arts and culture is frequently used as a strategy to help people know this is a space for them to use and gather. And from the beginning, we were trying to think very carefully both about any kind of impact on residents of our programming, but at the same time, knowing that with many cultural traditions that come out of this neighborhood, music is an essential element, and wanting to find ways so that music could absolutely be part of these afternoon programs. If thinking about residents, we tried to keep our programming limited. So this was a 3-hour period, one afternoon a week. Saturday afternoon, we thought would be have the most minimal impact. We know noise is an issue all across the neighborhood. So it was deliberately framed in that time frame. We also curated music that would only require modest amplification and genres such as jazz or world music that would be both culturally appropriate for all the communities in the neighborhood to feel included, but would not, necessarily need serious amplification to function. We also focus on serving a local community. So we're not trying to create large events drawing big crowds, but to work more intimately with residents and artists and to have this sense of really that this is a community space. A sample program would be a street closure starting at 1 p.m., 2 o'clock an arts activity would begin. From 2:30 to 3:30, we would have a first performance. From 4 to 5, a second performance, and around 5, we would start breakdown. We programmed over a 26-week period from April to October. We programmed ourselves 16 Saturdays. 5 Saturdays were closed for holiday weekends or because of weather. And 5 Saturdays, we provided staff to support programming that was initiated by Laura or LOSC or DOT or another partner. In our 16 weeks, we had 34 performance groups. So usually it was 2, once in a while there was somebody extra. We did 20 music presentations, 7 were jazz ensembles, 9 were world music ensembles, and 14 theater, dance, or spoken word presentations. We pursued supporting local artists, many of whom are still trying to recover from the extended closures, especially performing arts artists in the neighborhood. We have an ongoing open call for artists and provided mini grants of $350 to $500 for performing groups to come to an hour on Avenue B. Some of the local artists are listed. And I also wanted to mention some special partnerships we were involved in. Our LES Community Culture Day, which happened in July, was curated by local residents and included 20 local artists. Trinity Church collaborated with us on a dance party. They provided food on August 6th. And we also were piloting this fall a small arts and artisans vending market, all local folks. That's it.
Thank you. So I'm going to clarify again. Thanks. There was a useful overview of the programming that you did, the kind of a programming that comes out of Open Streets. So I just want people to understand or try to understand that there are 2 different ways that people, I'm sure, are going to talk about tonight, that streets can be converted to use for people. There's a temporary thing, which is called Open Streets, and that was what FAB has been doing for a couple of years now. And then the thing that has been going around about a plaza, that is a different thing entirely, which is a complete and permanent closure of a street to anything except emergency access, perhaps sanitation, but it is not a through street anymore. And that is the thing that is not being proposed by DOT at this time and perhaps never. Open streets is something that looks like it may continue, and I'm going to ask Susan now to talk about it. But I will say, open streets actually never comes to the community board for a vote. The clock of it isn't such that they give us a period of time to comment, and it's never long enough to actually get a meeting cycle with that complies with open meetings laws. So this is the opportunity sort of to provide input about it in a sense, but it's the community board is not going to be voting on it. So that wasn't a proposal that we are voting on tonight, is the short of it. Susan?
Thank you. So DOT does not have open streets ready. There was a presentation to the 12 district managers, I think last month, from DOT. And they give the community board 30-day notice, which we have said is not enough to put on the agenda. And we have asked the borough president's office to help us get at least 45 days notice so that we can put it on the agenda with the list of streets. Again, they're not asking us to vote on it. They're sending it to us and we can choose to comment. That's very different than, as David said, a plaza, which is a different program and does come to the community board for a vote. So there will never be a plaza without coming to the board for a vote. At this time, there is no plan for a plaza. It was a question on a survey distributed by DOT last summer, and people picked up on it and I think did not understand that it was just simply a question somebody without serious planning put on a survey. And I will say also, Jackie from DOT is here, so she should, at our request to hear concerns, so she should also jump in and correct me or add anything. And I will say there is no issue. Open streets was not put on the agenda to decide if they're good or bad. There's no issue at this moment with the open street. The complaints I have been getting have been about noise from programming at that one block. And that's it. Those were the complaints that I got, and I confirmed. Some residents have different feelings, but I had confirmed at the time that the only thing that we were discussing was sound from the programming. And like I said, only on that one block. And to let DOT, before there is even a thought of a plan, to let DOT hear the concerns about the plaza. There were not issues of continuing or not continuing the open street at all.
Okay. All that said, I'm going to start recognizing people who have their hands raised. Laura, I assume you've already gone.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll take my hand down.
Okay, thanks. Paul Engler. Oh, and if we could put the timer up. Oh, sorry, Wendy.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Susan. David, I won't be long, I promise. It's
Great.
just maybe 2 minutes and 15 seconds. I timed it. I want to thank you first for allowing us to speak. I want to say that I am a resident of on Avenue B between 8th and 9th. I don't live around the corner. I don't live 6 blocks away. I'm on the block that the plaza is planned for. The Avenue B. Oh, that's right. That's that we've been talking about. There's been some drawings and sketches we've seen from DOT that have kind of a little mapping. So we just assumed that someone's thinking about our block as a plaza block. That's where we got that information. We didn't make it up. The Avenue B 8-9, which means between 8th through 9th Street Block Association, we object to the DOT Open Streets concept to establish a pedestrian plaza on Avenue B between 8th and 9th Streets. Residents of the block object to all barricades, programming, and street furniture conceptualized for this block. Under pedestrian plaza application requirements, there are uses and rules. The DOT website states that, and this is about open space, states the department will prioritize proposed pedestrian plazas that are in neighborhoods with insufficient amount of open space. Avenue B, as you all know, between 8th and 9th Street, it's a quiet residential block along the eastern perimeter of Tompkins Square Park. This stretch of City Street is neither a hub nor a connection for commercial areas. The adjacent park, Tompkins Square Park, offers 10.5 acres of community space with 3 children's parks, a skate park, basketball courts, dog parks, performance areas, tables, seating, the whole thing. The park hosts activities and performances throughout the year. If the DOT Open Streets mission, as published, is to, quote, transform streets into public spaces open to all, unquote, the Avenue B proposal is unnecessary when nearby public space open to all is already provided by the park. In other words, the DOT Plaza plan for Avenue B is redundant and a waste of city resources. The DOT also states that Plaza should be and this is under community initiatives, it says that applicants must demonstrate the ability to develop and execute a community outreach plan, build consensus around the proposal, and solidify local stakeholders' support. And we are about as local as it gets. Support for Avenue B open streets and a plaza is advocated for by entities including Loisada, EVCC, Fab New York, along with elected officials, all in the name of community. Yet no one from these groups sought support from us, the community members that live on this block. For our physical and mental well-being and safety, we do not want unwarranted difficulty getting to and from home, nor undue noise and congestion at our doorsteps. An open streets plaza plan for this block would adversely affect the quality of life for the residents of this block. I'm just about done. While adding no apparent value. One more sentence, please. As adjacent property owners and residents, we formally request that the plaza concept for Avenue B be eliminated from future DOT planning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Andrea Holm. Ooh, can you unmute?
Sorry, it just took me a minute to, okay, so I, like Paul, live on the block, and I understand you're saying there is no planned pedestrian plaza, which I hope means there will never be a planned pedestrian plaza. I have several points about the difficulties that we've had, both from open streets, potentially from a plaza, and certainly from the constant interference of these barriers a part of the open streets planned. We have a mobility impaired, frail elderly resident at 131 Avenue B, where I live and have lived for 38 years. He's had issues getting an ambulance to him because of the barriers on the block. Noisy and intrusive activity every Saturday on our block from April through October severely impacted our quality of life. We request that future programming on our block not be allowed. There's a park, it's full of open space. You can have dancing and concerts and draw on the street, or draw on the pavement in the park. We need the road to operate as a road. Delivery vehicles continue to be impeded by the barriers, and even routine services as car service, pickup or drop off are a challenge. It's a key route for the fire station on 2nd Street, which has been seen to hit the barriers at speed while headed north. Community space, as Paul said, community space seating and programming is already provided in Tompkins Park to the extent that adding the programs to the street created a god-awful noise with punk bands coming from the park. That's fine. Beautiful jazz coming from Avenue B, that's fine, but the two of them in conflict, which they were every Saturday afternoon, was extremely annoying. This is a quiet residential block. We don't need entertainment or places to sit. That's all available in the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Lake, sorry.
Hi, thank you. I live on 10th Street between A and B along the north side of Tompkins Square Park. I've lived there for 36 years. We hear a lot of noise in and around the park. We hear all the amplified concerts. We hear the basketball tournaments, whistling, cheering. We hear skateboarders. We hear fireworks, sirens, music blasting, you name it. But we do not hear intrusive noise from the summer programming on the open street. I've been involved in the open street since the beginning for a number of reasons, but one of the big ones is being able to help offer and enjoy for myself the local music and arts programming that's not window shaking amplified bass in the middle of a huge crowd at the Tompkins Square Bandshell area. Ryan gave a great presentation on the types of things that are happening. There's a couple of hours of music on Saturday afternoons. I think it's great. I support it. And I will say again that even though we hear everything else that happens in and around the park, we do not hear intrusive noise from these activities. We just hear enjoyment. And we're happy that these activities are open to all, that they're free, and that they bring culture and art to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. So Temple Carr. Unmute.
There we go. Hello. I too am a resident here on Avenue B between 8th and 9th. And I was going to ask some questions to the DOT just about the process, but maybe that is premature. So I do want to respond to Laura and Ryan and to the CB3 just about programming in general. I reached out to Laura over the summer, and she's very cordially responded to me, and there showed some concern about the amplification because honestly the speakers and things were set up about just 30 feet away and elevated from our front windows. And some people said, oh, it's only a couple of hours of this and that, but we're in our houses. Some of us are working in our houses. We have things to do in our houses. And it was much different than just the noise coming from a distance from the park. And it was pretty unbearable. And I did notice, and on the other side of the thing, Ryan, what you're doing, Fab New York, fantastic. I support the arts, love the arts. But my question comes up again and again, and I asked you all this summer too, why not the park? The park, our beloved park, we should be putting, and there is a new Friends of Tompkins Square Park group, and we are trying to put energy into our park. So why not the park? Why not put great dancing and arts and wonderful music of great quality in the park? Why not? Why on the block here where, again, no residents were included in the discussion of whether that was a good idea or would affect our lives and not. CB3, by the way, I looked up application permitting. Hopefully this permitting for our block will not be permitted going forward, since it says, first of all, that you must leave a lane open. No lanes were left open. The block was totally closed. And then engaging in conduct or committing acts that disturb the peace, comfort, or repose of a reasonable person of normal sensitivities. This was absolutely violated with this programming this summer. So I would just say those two things from the CB3 documents right there would prevent certainly this programming going forward on our block. And let's everyone work on the park. The park's the heart and soul of this neighborhood. So, programming and things, let's move there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cecil Scheib.
Good evening. My name is Cecil Scheib. I've lived in CB3 for about 15 years, and we're in the Christodora, so nearby, though not on the block in question. And I just want to say, I'm hearing my neighbors on 8th and 9th and want to take care of them and hope whatever goes forward hears their concerns and help do things in a way that's good for them. That said, my son here will be 6 in 10 days. And the Open Streets events have been completely transformative for him. They had the science bus out on the block, and he went and his name's Cyrus, he would like me to tell you. And they had the science bus. He looked through the microscope. Then he taught all the other kids to look through the microscope. Then he got into science. There's like so many amazing things. And it is a quiet residential street, except for the cars going way too fast by. And so I do think a co-benefit of thinking about how to activate the street is to slow traffic. And one thing I like about the open street is that the delivery vehicles, the emergency vehicles, the for-hire cars and things can get through. There's no block that's closed off, at least right now, but it's just slower. So I hope we find a way forward that can hold on, baby, please, that can address everyone's concerns and leave people feeling happy, but I hope it can be constructive. I don't want it to be a this or that vis-a-vis the park. I think the street and the park serve different purposes and different needs. And as for DOT's proposal or not, I don't think we can say anything about that until we see the details and we have something to react to. But as someone who lives on the next block, I'm at least interested in seeing what they propose and learning more. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Ali Ryan. Ali, are you, I don't see your video. You'll have to unmute if you're trying to speak. Ali Ryan, oh, good.
Was it me? Were you calling on me?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you. I'm sorry. For some reason, my audio is low. Hello, my name is Ali Ryan. My family lives right off of Avenue B, and we must cross the Avenue B open street to go to school, to go to nearby parks such as Sawyer Park and Tompkins Square Park, or to go to our favorite pizzeria, or to buy groceries. The biggest question I have to ask, and hopefully the DOT representative could address this question, is can the DOT provide the results of the Avenue B survey to the public? It would be appropriate that the DOT issue an official statement of whether or not there will be a plaza. Personally, I do not support the Avenue B open street. The only 311 complaint that I have made is about a pothole on Avenue B between 11th Street and 12th Street that took 3 months to get filled. I have witnessed bicyclists biking through the red lights. I have seen emergency vehicles having difficulty navigating the barriers. I've seen more people jaywalk as if they're in Midtown, but they're on Avenue B. The only time I see people using the Avenue B open street is for the exercise class or the Fab New York programming. Otherwise, the Avenue B open street is empty. Whereas Tompkins Square Park has visibly gone into decline over the past 2 years, which is when the Avenue B open street has been in existence. I can't help but wonder, why can't the money, programming, and resources that go into the Avenue B open street be redirected to Tompkins Square Park? Chris Flash has been putting on park shows for years, and my husband has actually helped him put on these park shows. That is the only formal programming we have in Tompkins Square Park. Why can't we create a plaza, a formal plaza for where the band shell used to be? So those are my questions, and I recognize this is an open discussion, so I hope you take my comments into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to start being more strict about the timer. I'm sorry, more and more hands keep going up. So we're going to have to, what I'm going to do is say, can you wrap it up? I'm going to try to watch the timer. Say wrap it up at 10 seconds, and then we really are going to start cutting people off at 2 minutes. So next is Beatrix. Triz.
Hello, everybody. I'm Beatrice. This is my husband, Darren. We own a small business on Avenue B, and we also live at the corner of 9th and B in Mississippi. We love open streets. We love the opportunity to have something different in the neighborhood, something that brings the community together. I agree that it has improved a little bit of the quality of life. It's kind of fun, and I think that that's part of the reason why it's being done, bringing the community together and bringing people together with exercise or circus, which was our favorite. The music does not affect us in our unit, and so we encourage it, and we think that one day a week, 3 hours maximum for 1 day a week is not too much to ask of this neighborhood to tolerate a little bit of extra noise to bring a little culture and diversity into the block. And that's our 2 cents. And I will take that. Just 1 minute. My husband is, I think I speak for both of us. So we support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Logan Velda or Welda?
Close. Weldy. Hello, everyone. Logan Weldy, pronouns are he, him, and I live on 11th between A and B. I have moved here in 2005, and I, like almost everyone I've heard so far, really enjoys this neighborhood. I think we've got so many great things in it. I have used the open streets. I have enjoyed events on Avenue B. And I am speaking in support of whatever you guys decide, but closing the street permanently would be my favorable outcome, and putting a park there. I do hear the concerns of the people that live there. I thought Mr. Scheib brought up a good point that you get a benefit from not having the volume from the cars. So, like everything in life, there's a cost benefit analysis, and that might be something that you would enjoy. I know I would like to live on a street that's closed. And property values. I've done a lot of work in other cities, and we see property values increase when things like this go in. So there are other things to take into consideration, but I do support the plans to close this. Thank you.
Thank you. John King.
Thank you. My name is John King. I live at 131 Avenue B between 8th and 9th Streets. I'm on the second floor. I've lived here for 30 years. I'm a musician and a composer and a recording artist, and having open street performances even one day a week directly affects my livelihood. Whenever there would be open streets performances over the past year, I would not be able to do any work of any kind, as it was too noisy to do any kind of work and any kind of recording. It was like, I take issue with the designation, it was low amplification. It was equivalent to having the Zumba classes in my apartment. And the foot traffic and the bands and the mics that go on from the setup through the performances till the end of the time period, it makes doing any work completely impossible. There's no reason to shut down Avenue B for these so-called open streets activities. I wish to vehemently voice my opposition to open streets on Avenue B, and most certainly to any proposed permanent pedestrian plaza. It would completely ruin my livelihood. There's a park across the street where these kinds of activities currently do and certainly could continue to take place. That is where they should be held, not on Avenue B. This is a residential block, not a commercial block. I strongly urge you to vote no to any of these open street activities, and certainly for the pedestrian plaza. This programming defies standards put forth by the CB3. I would like to hear confirmation from CB3 that no further permits will be granted for programming on our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also keeping an eye on the hands up, and I'm not going to recognize anyone who isn't already having their hands up. So keeping going. Justin Hagen. Can you unmute?
Sorry there, I turned my screen off accidentally. My name is Justin Hagen. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. I'm a longtime resident and condo board member at the Christodora House. I live right on the corner of 9th and B on the second floor. And I'd just like to voice my support for open streets and the idea, the concept of a plaza in that location between 8th and 9th. If it's a good plan that DOT puts forward. I'm a parent of 2 small kids, and though I don't speak tonight on behalf of the condo board, certainly I have, I'm very involved with my neighbors here in the building, and I know that especially other neighbors who are parents have really enjoyed and benefited from the programming on Avenue B on that block. And one other point I'd like to make is that the decrease in traffic is a real benefit. It's a real benefit, and I hear the concerns of our neighbors on the block about the noise, but I think that this is an opportunity that won't come again. And I think that there are solutions to those issues, and we shouldn't pass up an opportunity to extend the recreational programming, arts, the diverse opportunities that my kids have enjoyed right outside their door. I don't think that the park and this concept of, of DOT are mutually exclusive. Why not extend that space? Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Emma Pearlstone. Emma.
Hi, thanks. I'm Emma Pearlstone. I'm also a resident of Avenue B. I'm on 3rd Street, so I'm a bit lower down than some of them that have talked. I want to speak in favor of the open street. Whenever I walk through it, it reminds me why I love living in New York and why I love living in the East Village. It's a neighborhood that supports artists and pays them to be there and bring life and vitality to our neighborhood. I think that, arguments that it's too noisy and it's something disruptive is, it's a neighborhood full of life, and it's something that I really appreciate. It's a moment when I get to meet some of my fellow neighbors. And it's different than, Tompkins Square Park. I think of that's not a place where I know I'm going to go interact with Avenue B residents. That's a place where there's a lot of things going on. This is an intentional place where I can feel like I'm connecting. And honestly, as I've seen the neighborhood in general, just from living here the small amount of time, and how it's been developed with Avenue B and Avenue C and Avenue D, I think that, this is a way to kind of still cut down on that development and commercialization and still offer an opportunity to show what makes this neighborhood so special. This is something that, it's not to be just certain people in a building who don't like noise. This is something that, residents across Avenue B, I have many friends who really, really enjoy it. So I'd like to speak in favor. And I'd like to echo also as a biker, this is a place where I can really safely bike. And I really appreciate how it does cut down on traffic. Thanks.
Thank you. Tom Kinslow.
Hi there. My name is Tom Kinslow. I've been a resident of Community Ward 3 for 13 years. My wife and I have 2 young children, and we also live on the corner of 9th and B, so overlooking the open streets. And I want to speak as just a huge fan of the current open streets programming, the slowdown in traffic, and would be, based on seeing what little I know today, supportive of a plaza in the future if the details get worked out. We find that the programming that's been done has been more accessible, curated, and intimate than the park. And we have 2 young kids, and it's a lot more fun and enjoyable for them to be in these programs than the bigger ones in the park, which tend to be a bit more unruly and just larger in scale. It's also quieter than before because the jazz or lighter music actually works to cut some of the amplified sound from the park, which is really nice in the summers when we have our windows open. And I find that, it's more of a community-driven experience than a citywide experience, as many of the events in the park are, which it's much more enjoyable to see our neighbors and their kids at these events than some of the other bigger ones. We don't think it's an either or. These can be additive and complementary to what's been going on in the park. And as people with families, we support more green space across the city, and make it more inviting and able to raise their family here. And then finally, I'm also a car owner, and I do support having it be harder to drive on Avenue B. It's not a through street. It's actually one with a lot of pedestrian traffic as kids are running back and forth into the park. And so anything the DOT can do to shut down the through traffic from trucks would be really appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, Mark Berg.
Yeah, I think you can hear me now. Wait, sorry, let me unmute.
We can.
Yeah. All right, I think I got it. So here's my notes. Sorry. Thank you all for your work and for your thoughts. It's been interesting to hear all of this. I am a resident of Avenue B since 2002. I'm a visual artist and a teacher for 19 years at School of Visual Arts. I'm the father of an 8-year-old boy. My wife and I are opposed to open streets and related programming. We agree with Temple Alley and other neighbors who are opposed to open streets as it is currently configured, its programming, and the creation of a plaza. The violation of residents' quiet enjoyment cannot be abided, and in fact, it may not be legal. I would suggest that all advocates of open streets look into the legality of quiet enjoyment and one's entitlement to quiet enjoyment. It's one of the oldest forms of tort law. Are the barricades safe? My experience as a cyclist and as a dad crossing the streets with my son is that they are dangerous and they create hazards. I've personally seen EMS, FDNY, the New York Department of Sanitation, and of course delivery vans and others have to take the time to exit their vehicles and move the barricades to be able to pass through to provide essential services. I'm a huge fan of slowing down traffic. Speed bumps would be a great measure for slowing down traffic. If car traffic needs to be slowed down, this can be addressed in the same manner that it's been addressed on the side streets in our area. Why is a plaza needed along Tompkins Square Park? As others have mentioned, Tompkins Square Park is in dire need of attention and budget. So I have some questions. What is FDNY's position on open streets? What is EMS's position on open streets? NYPD, what is their position on open streets? And I'm not a universal fan of NYPD.
I'm sorry, Mark, you're at 2 minutes now, so I'm going to keep going. We have so much on the agenda tonight. Mehmet, you want to go, please? Are you there? You're there. Have you unmuted? You have to do something to unmute your phone, I think. Something special, like *9. I'm just guessing. If you're not able to do it, I will skip and come back to you. You can keep experimenting. I will try you after each speaker going forward. So look into it. Michael Kramer.
Hi, I'm in favor of the program. Let me address the traffic calming first. We live on 9th and B. We've heard from many of our neighbors tonight. We think it's really important that we slow down traffic. We think that it's important that the for-hire vehicles and the taxis have gotten the reputation of not cutting through and using Avenue B as a shortcut. So I think it's really done a good job there. And in my personal experience, I've seen all the emergency vehicles get through, and I'm not sure that that's a real issue. Secondly, in terms of the 3 hours that it takes for the program to happen on a Saturday, I think it's really interesting that we have a very child-friendly programming that we hear. We often stop and listen and try to participate when we can. Lots of not-for-profits have an opportunity to show off their programming. But I really have just one very simple suggestion, which is that we ask that the loudspeakers be turned west rather than east. And if they're turned west, the sound goes into the park. If they turned east, it goes into the neighbors, our neighbors on 9th, on the east side of 9th. So that's my suggestion, but I'm very much in favor of the open streets. It does make, it is fun to be in the East Village and to see all sorts of artists. And we go into the community gardens and we see it. And it's really nice to come across whatever we come across on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you.
Good grief. Thank you. Mehmet, I don't see you on anymore. If you unmute, we'll let you start talking, but we're going to go with Jackie Lazaro now. Didn't work again, Mehmet. Jackie?
Hey, David, if I could just go at the end, I just wanted to let the community continue speaking.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't read the DOT. I understood that, but I forgot. Okay, Jacqueline Holmes.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I'm on 9th, just east of B. And I volunteered to help man the barriers and volunteer with some of the events And I just wanted to share my experience of dozens and dozens of people at each event coming up and saying how nice it was to have such a community vibe and to have what we've heard some people say before, really connect with their neighbors in a more visible and intimate and local, micro-local kind of way. The response of many people who aren't necessarily involved in community board, et cetera, has been so uniformly positive. And also I've seen dozens of emergency vehicles, et cetera, go through as the barriers are positioned to allow. So I'm strongly in favor of the open streets as they are. The noise is less for me than it is with the cars. And I would fully support a plaza that was pedestrian only. Thank you so much.
I can't even find my mute. Matt, you want to try again?
Yes, I'm on now. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to just speak to the open plan for the community. I live on 9th and B as well. And my big question here is what is the benefit that we are spending with DOT dollars when we have a beautiful park that all of these activities can take place in, and the community could flourish, and it's a good point for multiple residents in the community to meet, is one point. The second point is I've intricately been involved in Tompkins Square Park and the cleanup, and I'm on this call, and I've been on this call several times, and I see a lot of these people speaking tonight that we've never seen support the park, but yet they're willing to support an open street plan. I just don't understand this. And the second thing is, those of you that do support it, I think it's wonderful, but a majority of you don't even spend the weekends here in New York City. You go outside of the city. So why should we support this when it's creating noise, garbage, and additional chaos on the street when we have a park that everybody can enjoy? That's my point.
Thank you. And this will be the last speaker. We've been at this a while. I earlier said that this will be the last one. So Eric Weber.
Hi there. Thanks for the time. My wife and I live on 7th Street between C and D, so we're a few blocks away from the park. We have an 18-month-old son. We had the opportunity this summer to have him out on the open street several times, particularly for Earth Day, which was a great event that we really enjoyed. We've appreciated having the open street in the neighborhood, expanding the amount of space available in the neighborhood for people to enjoy. The park is wonderful. I think we should continue investing in it. I will actually say I participated in a cleanup earlier this year, gave my email address to at least 2 different people to ask to be further involved, and haven't heard anything from that. I would love to continue to be involved there, and I think that the Department of Parks should continue to invest in Tompkins Square Park, and we should continue to improve it. DOT is also willing to give us money to expand the space that we have available in the neighborhood, and I would really love for us to continue to do that. In fact, I think that I would love to see an improvement on Avenue B and Open Street to reduce traffic even further. The programming is wonderful. Outside of hours, the programming, I agree with somebody earlier who said that the street is underutilized, and I think that's because it doesn't go far enough, and I would love to see DOT make more permanent some of the things so that drivers aren't aggressively moving barriers out of the way and speeding down the street, slaloming at times. So I'm very much in favor of continuing and expanding the program. We'd love to see more traffic calming on Avenue C as well. And for the bike lanes on Avenue C to actually be finished, which they're not, and I hope DOT can also take that into advisement. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so all right, so I hope people enjoyed that. So it was an informal attempt to sort of create a space, a public space to, for the residents to try to provide input to both the open space programming and DOT. We actually, as I said at the very beginning, we do not have any proposal before us tonight to be approved of or in any way. I do want to Okay. I do believe that early input is valuable to agencies or you know, organizations that are producing things. And that was what that was an attempt to do, was experimental. Committee members are sure I'm going to talk to me about this afterwards. Let me now say, I'd like to ask Laura or Fab one, had you considered, or would you consider maybe spreading out the programming along Avenue B, so that it's not always at the same location? I don't know.
So I'll just take that, David. We did, you know, we did, and we have, and we do. The thing that is nice about a regular event is that people know they can go to a certain block at a certain time, and they're gonna see something. And that's sort of, we created a community of regulars that, you know, did return to it. I want to just, I'm not supposed to talk directly to others, but I'm a big fan of John King's work, and I'm sorry to hear that he's not a fan of ours. And we have listened to all, you know, we're here to listen. And we rented and tested a silent disco headphone thing, because I hear you on some of the Zumba instructor's choice of music. It's not my favorite either, but the people really enjoy the exercise, and we really are working to find solutions that can work.
Thank you.
David, just to say, you know, we're open. We do think that there is an advantage for people kind of knowing, you know, that there's a particular space they can come to regularly, but we're open to the programming. I think this has been more guided by DOT's traffic concerns, as well as, you know, the police permitting process. So I just want to say there's other players in, you know, figuring that out.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I kind of jumped the gun. I meant to ask, to offer DOT an opportunity now. So Jackie, and then after that, we'll come back to committee members having thoughts. Jackie?
Thank you, David. And just off the top, thank you everyone from the community who came and shared, you know, their comments and their feedback. I am happy to say that, you know, DOT does plan to have another workshop for Avenue B. So we do plan to have that later this year once we have a more solidified date, or, you know, more information on that. Of course, we'll be sharing that with the community board. But like mentioned, there is no proposal at this time for a plaza on Avenue B, or any sort of proposal for anything on Avenue B. But once we do have that workshop up and running, we do hope to, you know, everyone would go out there and send in your feedback and comments.
Thank you. So now, committee members, if you have comments that you want to make, or, you know, informal or a discussion, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll start with Susan.
Laura mentioned that police permitting, which is true. They thought that permitting all the programming in that one spot would be better because the park was there, and so half the sound would go into the park. However, they're very open to revisiting that, you know, if they find out that maybe what they're doing is not the best thing. So I just want to acknowledge that that was part of the reason, and it is open, certainly open for next year.
Michelle.
Thanks, David. I'm walking away from this, I guess, a little bit confused about what constructive feedback we got. If it was to understand like how to mitigate the noise, I feel like we heard like one suggestion. So just, I guess, something to think about in the future if we like want to guide the conversation. Or am my understanding also is that DOT, and I think Jackie alluded to this, has been doing a lot of outreach on Avenue B. But I know this is not about a plaza, but because a lot of people veered into that territory, I will just read from CB3's 2024 district needs, which says CD3, like most community districts in New York City, is underserved in terms of open space, with less than the city recommended 2.5 acres of open space per 1,000 residents. And there are 4 more bullet points under that, including the closure of East River Park. And yeah, so just to keep that in mind as we're having this type of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other? Josh?
Yeah, I heard two comments basically tonight, repeated in different ways. One, yes, I support the open streets. It's good for the community. And the other comment was, I am opposed to the open street because it's bad for me. I feel like my job here on this committee is to, work for, in the best interests of the community. And it seems like the people who came here to speak tonight with regards to the community as a whole seem to be in favor of the open street, whatever the future may be. Obviously there's nothing specific that we have to talk about yet, but when that does come, like Jackie said, I'll look forward to that. Until then, thank you to the people who took time out of your evening to come, give us your feedback.
Okay, are we ready to move to the next agenda item? It looks like it. Okay, so we are going to do that. So we now have thank you everyone for coming for this. Thank you, DOT and the Open Streets programming. We have bus stop applications. There are 4 of them now. Yeah. If you're not a long timer on the committee, you may know, I think I've talked about this previously. We originally, this permitting of stops for buses was a way to try to control negative impacts of the intercity bus industry. It's often called the Chinatown bus industry. And that goes back many, many years. And now we're getting a lot of applications for hop-on, hop-off bus, tour bus operations. I'm not sure exactly why this is, but all of the draft language we have for resolutions is about controlling things when people are embarking or debarking from, a 5-hour bus trip. That's not this kind of a thing. This can have a different kind of negative impacts than materials that I have prepared years ago would be for. But let's go ahead and listen to the, I hope that we can deal with these relatively quickly, given that I understand committee, we really do need to send up a resolution and we do not have draft language. So
We do. I have drafts, David.
Okay, but if you have draft, that's good, stating the facts of things, but I don't really know what conclusions we're going to want to take, what we're going to talk about. In the past, we've talked about, is there a ticketing place which has a restroom? That's an important issue if you've got a 5-hour bus trip that you're at one end of a 5-hour bus trip. So like, for instance, on the application forms, which everyone can get into by clicking through the website, there are stipulations. I don't know how suitable those are, and it's not. Let's just launch into Monroe Bus Line, item 3. They've actually they're asking for 2. Oh, by the way, the locations have already been vetted by DOT. It doesn't mean that they are that there's nothing wrong with them. I'm just telling you that DOT has decided that these are safe locations for this to happen. And in some of these situations, I suspect they're already operating there. That's one of the comments that perhaps we would end up making an motion saying to DOT, we actually don't think it's a good location because of this reason. I also think that we're going to want to talk about the routes that these buses take, given that they often have a loudspeaker and they're going on narrow streets perhaps. Let's hear from Monroe Bus Line, and let's focus on it's item 3, their first location, where they're wanting the south side of Delancey between Essex and Norfolk Street. That's where they want to have one of their locations. Monroe Bus Lines.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, this is not, we're not a hop-on, hop-off bus, but a community run that runs from Orange County into Brooklyn.
Okay.
And we actually taking over, this is an established stop for Monroe Bus Corp. Has been operating this stop, I think, for like 15 years. They had this stop. And we just took over the company 2 years ago. And since we took it over, the DOT asked us to reapply for our name, to change it from Monroe Bus to Monroe Bus Lines, and to use the same stops. So that's what we're here. Our buses actually come in, they do a drop off in Midtown Manhattan, 47th Street. And then we have commuters that get off on the Lower East Side and then they continue over to Williamsburg Bridge into Williamsburg to drop off. And the same thing is for the one going the opposite direction. They start off in Williamsburg and they do a pickup in Lower East Side, then they continue into the Midtown and they go out to Lincolntown. So it's a commuter run for Orange County.
Okay, thank you. I really apologize for misreading your application 100%. I saw Monroe and I was thinking of the hop on, hop off bus. I do see on Monroe Street very often, so I confused you. All right, so committee, this is a relatively long distance bus. Michelle.
Thanks, David. So this is for in front of Essex Crossing, the Essex Market, the new 125 Delancey building, and the movie theater. So I lived there for several years at that building, and there was at no time since the new buildings went up a bus route stopping there. Right now, it's all no standing signs. In fact, there is not even it's not a lane right now. It is fully no standing. There is a hydrant mid-block, and if there were ever stops there, it was prior to Essex Crossing being built. There is now a significant amount of human beings walking on that sidewalk every day. And from living in this neighborhood for many years now and from being on this committee for many years, these sidewalk bus stops are extremely detrimental to pedestrian traversing. And Delancey is already a difficult street. I cannot see how this is inappropriate. I understand that DOT vetted it, but like from a perspective of someone who has lived there, someone who goes to Essex Market all the time, who walks that block all the time, I cannot see how this would be an appropriate place for a bus stop, especially given all of the concerns that we have about traffic in that area. People are constantly making illegal left turns from when they're going south from Essex onto Delancey. It is, I can't think of a worse place in some ways for a bus stop, given everything that's changed around there. So that's my 2 cents as someone who has literally lived on that block and spends a lot of time there. Thank you.
Danielle?
Hi, I definitely have to agree with Michelle. I think that's the worst location to put, especially with traffic being diverted just towards Norfolk Street with the new mapping. That's where everyone's going to turn into the car lanes. There's already traffic going in. Anyone who just pulls over there makes it just hard for traffic. People go fast, people try to go around it. And there is a lot more pedestrians walking there. It's a terrible location.
Yeah, I'm going to start saying opinions too. I completely agree. So let me ask the bus line. First, the bus line didn't actually pick this location. They may have provided a few locations, and DOT picked the one that they negotiated somehow with DOT. There was a process. So I'm asking the bus line, were there other locations that you had considered or maybe would prefer if we were to write up a resolution saying, please don't put it here? Do you have opinions about what might be better?
So, I'm sorry. So here's the thing. Like I said, we adopted, and if you could look that up, we basically took over all the stuff from Monroe Bus Corp. And this is a stop that was chosen by DOT at then. We didn't go through the process. We just switching from our company to their company. This is something not new. And here's the thing. The route the bus goes on is coming off from Williamsburg Bridge. And it would be going on to Elm to go on to 2nd Avenue to get to Midtown. So there wouldn't be, if the bus goes off route, and this is a commuter. This is not a charter run. This stops is literally drop off. They drop off or they pick up right there. People are waiting. It takes probably a minute or two for the bus to move or less. And this is the route. As soon as they take the Windsor Bridge, and they have to do a drop off when they go over to Williamsburg and Robin Street and Bedford Avenue. So And therefore, that will be the solution. And again, it was chosen by the previous owner of Monroe Bus Corp, and that's why it was approved for them, and that's why they had all these bus stops.
Okay, thanks. Lee?
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. Is this the same stop for the MTA bus that goes over the Williamsburg Bridge? Where is that one located? Michelle, do you know?
It's just west of Essex in front of the Chase Bank. Yeah, so that block has like parking and that bus stop, but the next block has no parking, no bus stop, nothing.
Thank you.
Josh?
Yeah, I wanted to share a letter that we received from Katie Archer at Essex Crossing, who's spoken before this committee many times on the changing landscape of Essex Crossing and that area right there. She wrote to us today. Dear Mr. Crane and members of the community board, Delancey Street Associates and Essex Crossing oppose the proposed Monroe bus line application for a bus stop located on the south side of Delancey Street between Essex and Norfolk. This location is directly in front of the residential entrance of a building housing nearly 500 individuals, as well as a community-focused public market and commercial space, which draws hundreds of daily visitors. The proposed bus stop elicits substantial concerns for a community already overburdened by congestion, noise, pollution, and litter. The proposed location near the entrance of the Williamsburg Bridge already has alarming congestion issues, an increased influx of traffic and pedestrians, coupled with existing concerns like the jagged south crosswalk on Norfolk and Delancey, as well as the large senior population nearby, pose increased safety and security risks for pedestrians, passengers, and neighborhood residents. We urge you to reconsider this location for the safety and well-being of area residents. I tend to agree with her. Obviously, she knows that area better than I do personally, but it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense right there, especially even if it's been like that in the past, with what Essex Crossing and that area looks like now, all of that new housing and commerce right there.
Let's open this up. Let's consider the next item along with it, because it's the same bus line. And so that is the other side of Delancey Street. So now I think I'm understanding that this is along their route, the last stop in Manhattan or the first stop, on a route that extends from, I'll just say from Midtown, to Monroe, New York. So is that accurate, Mr. Fogowitz?
That's accurate. That's good.
Okay, so then, what is the rest of that road, the route surrounding it? Are you coming from further west on Delancey, or you can't turn off of Essex onto Delancey? So you must be, is that correct?
They come down, and most time they come back, coming into the city, they will go through Midtown, come down Second Avenue, turn left on the Delancey onto the Williamsburg Bridge, in most cases.
Left off of, okay, so off of Second Avenue onto Delancey.
Correct.
Okay, and then the other direction, when you're coming off the bridge into Manhattan, is it?
If I continue on to Delancey, onto Allen right onto First Avenue, and then cross over to Midtown.
Okay, so one option that we could do is ask them to co-locate it with the nearest MTA bus stop. They do this very often. I'm wondering why they didn't this time. Why DOT didn't?
I didn't want to charm them before. To be honest, if the next block over, which was saying is a Chase Bank, and there's a shared MTA stop, which we had in Midtown in previous, we had the same kind of discussion, and they wanted us to share us with an MTA stop one block up. It doesn't make a big difference to us. It's not like it has to be at that particular block. It has to be in that area because people get off from the commuter room, going down, getting off the Lower East Side, working people. But it wouldn't make a big difference if it's a block up or block down for us.
Well, it sounds like there is a stop for your eastbound route leaving Manhattan, that there is a stop 1 block away. I believe that's what I heard. And I suspect that there's one in the other direction, 1 block, within a block. I'm not positive.
I'm open to that. I have no problem with
Open to it.
If DOT would approve it, I have no problem with it. And it might have been, like I said, it might have been when they chose that stop, when they asked for the stop many years ago, things have changed. And if a block up, a block down would, help, sure.
Has this route not been in operation for many years? Is that the situation, and you're reactivating it?
No, it's been in operation for many, many years. it hasn't stopped. It's been in operation almost for 40 years. I mean, besides COVID, it stopped a little bit, but it's been a stop. And we, you know, the drivers are ours. If, you know, without them having a legal bus stop there, they would, of course, you know, wouldn't stop or would go to the next MTA stop. But that's why, and it has to be, it's appropriate to be legal for DOT purposes.
Okay, so you have been at this, stopping at this location recently, at these two stops, or?
I know the one going over to Williamsburg for sure. The one, I don't know if it's south or north, the one coming from Midtown for sure. Picking up at the location, the opposite direction. The drivers have been, you know, instructed to use a MTA stop for now, because we don't want to have a problem if there's not a sign for a bus stop.
Right, okay, I understand. I suspect they'd be amenable to changing it. Michelle, and then Lee. Michelle?
So, yeah, I mean, David, I think that probably, I mean, the B39 does not run very frequently, frankly, which is the one that goes over the Williamsburg Bridge, and that's the one that's in front of Chase on the south side. I'm not sure I think that the north side one is also just directly across, like in front of the McDonald's there. I think there's a stop there, and then there's one on Allen Street, Delancey and Allen, I should say. And so I should say that the one on the north side of the street that is proposed here is quite close to where the B39 stop is, if not at the exact same one. I walked by last month and I can't find my photos. I took pictures of all of this, but it's that is on the same block as the B39 going westbound. It's the eastbound that is the problem, like being in front of Essex Market. I think it would probably be better situated at the just west on the other side of Essex Street, if DOT was okay with that.
Right. I think they will. I actually think both of them will be better across the street. It's just very congested between Essex and the bridge. That's just Lee.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing the buses laying over or really stopping for very long there. Can you tell us on average, if you recall, how many folks you have getting on or off at those two stops?
So things have changed since COVID-19, but give or take, depending on the day, you're talking about average sometimes from 5 to 10 passengers at most. It's not a lot. Like I said, that stop, you're absolutely right. That bus would literally be there, and within, I would say, 30 seconds, a minute, be gone. It's not a layover. It's not a ticket agent. It's not something that they have to. They will just hop on, get off. These are people that want to get to work as soon as the bus stops. They're out of the bus, or vice versa. So it's literally a minute stop.
Okay. Josh, is it appropriate to bring up a draft?
Yeah, Wendy has everything. I think this would be a good time though. It just kind of lays out the facts.
Okay, so Wendy, if you could do that, and then we can talk about, is this suitable for us, and what do we want to modify with it? Say, whereas they've applied, and okay, and after go ahead and skip the bit about the stipulations there. Therefore, be it resolved that issuer does not. Right. Okay. So what I was hearing being discussed as an option would be to modify this so that it would say to issue a permit for them to operate. Well, we've added whereas explaining that actually, even though it's brief, if we felt so, that even though it's brief, stopping on the blocks between Essex and the bridge is going to be disruptive in an area that's already got problems. So we could, therefore, we could say that we wanted them to approve it at a different location, probably co-located with the B39 bus stops that are a block away. Is there anyone against taking that approach? We're drafting language already. So I think we should keep going. Even though the operator would only stop briefly to, this case, it's to pick up passengers, because this is the south side of the Lansing. We'll do parallel one for the other one. We'll only stop briefly to pick up the passengers at the proposed location. it would be on one of the blocks between Essex Street and the Williamsburg Bridge, which are, how to say it? I mean, that's where the problem emanates from, right, y'all? That's a proposed language here. Those blocks are the access to the
Maybe something like on one of the blocks between Essex and the Williamsburg Bridge, it would be very problematic.
Say these blocks are the access to the bridge with many feeders coming from the neighborhood, and is a cause of terrible congestion problems that we've been experiencing, that the community has been experiencing. And we are concerned that any stop in traffic flow could be detrimental. Is that going to work? So these blocks are the access to the Williamsburg Bridge, and many and a lot of traffic feeds into the bridge from neighborhood streets, surrounding neighborhood streets. Period. The proposed stop would interrupt the flow of traffic in a way that is going to be detrimental to an already congested area. Not elegant, but it says it, right?
To the surrounding,
to an already congested area.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that says it. And then we should delete the thing about the storefront because it's not that type of operation. And so there, down below, let's say issue a permit instead of deny the permit, so we can edit that. Located at a stop near. Go ahead and insert in front of that, at a stop near that, whatever that address was. I would undo, okay, if you remember it, yeah. There you go, at a stop near.
Should we say existing bus stop, existing MTA bus stop?
To operate at a designated curbside bus stop located.
You can language it at a shared MTA bus stop.
Well, designated but curbside bus stop is what we are approving. So we'll leave that. Located, say, not at 125 Delancey Street, but at the nearest, so say change near to be not at. And then right there, comma, but at, or I don't know if the comma goes there, I'm not good at that stuff, but at the nearest M39 bus stop.
B39.
Sorry, B39. So, and let's say instead of at, say co-located with, because they do that kind of a thing. So co-located, correct, with the nearest B39 bus stop, west of Essex Street. Right. I don't think there's another one, but we want them west of Essex. Okay, comma, providing that that looks right to me. Is there other people reading it and agree that that is clear? Is there anything we need to add, or do we want to vote on this? And then we'll do the identical changes for the next resolution on them. All right, I think we can bring this to a vote. Let's go ahead and do that. Or let's draft the language and do one vote for both Monroe and bus line items. That'll save us a little time. Sorry, can you go back?
Okay.
We'll just paste those same changes into the next resolution.
Wendy, just so you know, the only difference between the draft reso we just did and the next one is the address is different, and they're, one is departures, one is arrivals, so the times are different. So I don't know what's faster for you, to just like copy and paste the last one and then just change the times, or you know what I mean? It's all the same
Oh.
language. It's just, yeah, the times, and then
I think the only thing we changed was like the whereases and like the therefore to resolve. So I can just copy and paste that and without changing the times or anything.
cool.
So while you do that, I didn't see anyone trying to speak from the public, but is there anyone from the public who does want to comment on this, this bus line? So when Wendy's completed with this, we are also going to delete the lines that are marked out.
Okay.
Those were steps they didn't agree to and mostly aren't applicable.
Okay.
I think that's all good then.
Mhm.
But let's see if any of the language about this whereas that's complete with the blocks. Okay, this is not access to the bridge in this case. This is egress from the bridge, I guess. Egress from bridge. And a lot of traffic feeds from the bridge into the surrounding neighborhood streets. I mean, I kind of know that the problem is really the other direction, but the same, just into the surrounding streets. There you go. I think that's good. So everyone has read those, because as I just admitted, my reading comprehension wasn't good when I read the application. So the resolutions are good.
Is the other bus stop still west of Essex Street? Yes, right?
We would want it west of it, yeah, even though it's
Still, okay.
westbound traffic, yeah.
Making
You don't
sure.
mention the direction of traffic anywhere on this? Probably not,
Mm-mm.
except for this paragraph. Got it. All right, can we do a vote? Let's just go ahead and roll call it. It's only 10 of us, maybe. So this is both items.
Okay. Should I ask you to go last?
Sure, please.
Joshua Waterman,
Yes.
Wendy Lee, yes. Lee Berman,
Yes.
Tariq Darrell,
Yes.
Kenya Hernandez,
Yes.
Michelle Coopersmith,
Yes.
David Louie. David Louie. Richard Ropiak. Richard Ropiak. July Yang.
Yes.
David Crane.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now let's go to the next one. So it is also a bus stop, but this one does appear to be, for tourists getting around New York City. It's
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm looking for, it's Aurora Tourism Services. Let's take this one first. New York Iconic Cruises. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay. So am I correct? This is a touring around the city bus?
Yes, sir. Well, it's open.
Okay, and you're looking for approval for, it's the east side of Allen on the block between Grand and Hester. Okay. Are you already operating at that location? This is going to be useful for us to understand. And
No.
you're not. Okay. So first, let me ask, is there people from the public who want to talk about this? Or the applicant? Is there anything that we should know other than the location and the nature of the bus? Anything you want us to know?
Nothing much. young company. We started operations since 2016. We are a minority-owned company, and we've been on the application for a few bus stops since 2019. We've not had any success. This is the best result we've had so far, bringing it to your for deliberation. And this particular bus stop is will be serving customers around Chinatown, and that's about the farthest we've gone so far.
All right, thanks. So I'm going to let the committee start going. Lee?
Does the applicant or anybody on the board know how many other buses, bus companies, and bus routes are already on that block, picking up and or dropping off?
To the best of my knowledge, there is none on that block of Allen Street for sightseeing company.
For any type of company other than MTA?
I am not aware of any.
Okay, thank you.
I'll say, unfortunately, Leah, you're probably aware of this. DOT doesn't keep an accurate list of extant bus companies. Once something is approved, it stays there for a while. There is a reapplication process. I think they get, companies that are gone, they lose the designation at some point, but it is literally impossible for us, for instance, to track it down in advance of the meeting. So anyway, your question is unfortunately our only way to deal with it. It's bad. Michelle.
Thanks, David. So yeah, Lee, I don't think that there are any other buses on that block. The block that has a lot more is the one just north of it between Grand and Broome. When I'm walking in the morning, I see often the long haul buses blocking traffic, or people that are picking or dropping off people blocking traffic. It's really quite bad. But my question, the application for this one does not say exactly where the bus stop is. Where exactly will it be stopping?
It's 58 Allen Street.
58 Allen Street. How far is that from is that the same as the M15, or is it right behind it?
It's behind M15.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
A little bit to M15.
So will your bus drivers be instructed to ensure that because over there, just for everyone who's not aware of it, there's actually two M15 bus stops right in front, one right in front of the other. Both for the SBS is farther north, and then the local is just south. So the local will be just in front of where this proposed bus stop is. So I so frequently see our MTA bus route stops blocked. So will your bus drivers be instructed to make sure that there is enough space for the M15 to go along the curb?
Very well, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Because I see so often that they have to stop in the middle of Allen Street, and people with walkers, people with, other walking problems, people with bags have to walk into the middle of the street. So I just to be aware of the situation there. And then I know Trevor is on. So the proposal is for these to idle on South Street, to lay over on South Street. What is the time? How long will they be laying over on South Street? How often during the day?
We would be laying over in South Street, just because up and up off. It will be very minimal. Layover at South Street will be very minimal, because that's not the first point. We will be having people on the bus already. We would be disembarking people who want to explore Chinatown right there. So we would not necessarily have time to lay over. But in case that would ever lay over for whatever reason, it will be South Street. That's why we chose South Street.
Right. Well, I understand that South Street is a relatively large street, but there's also a huge amount of residential buildings there, all along South Street. And I'm not sure if Trevor is actually in front of the computer right now, but he's brought this issue to us in the past that South Street has kind of become a dumping ground for sightseeing buses, specifically ones that go to the World Trade Center. And it's, you know, it's a vulnerable community, it's an environmental justice area. So that's a concern to me about this, that even if there's adding any additional buses to South Street, that we're giving that okay. That's a concern to me. Thank you.
That South Street bus, there's official layover at South Street for buses to layover. That's where, like I said, would ever be standing for a minute or two before we have clearance for the passengers. But we are not going to go there to idle or stay for a long time. That's not what we.
Okay, thank you. And I just, just keep that in mind. There are lots of buses there now already, and it's it's an area with a lot of people, including senior housing. So we don't want to add pollution to that area, especially given that the FDR is already there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So are we ready? Well, let's discuss what we're going to do then. Let me just ask for a show of hands, committee members. Approve, disapprove, location. Well, what do you think about this location, I guess? Do we have any fundamental problem with the location as we did with the previous applicant? Anybody raise their hand to say they do? No? Okay. So raise your hand if you are inclined to approve of this, just so we can trying to find my reaction. Seeing 5 of us. Okay, lower your hand and let me see your hand if you are inclined to not approve it. Seeing a 1. Okay, let's draft language to approve it and see if that passes. We can bring up the application. I was going to ask about let's focus on the entered agreement one. These are the stipulations. So applicant, you checked off all of them. That some of them are, they were intended not for your type of operation. So I'm wondering if you intended to do this. I'm trying to bring up do you have staff that's going to be there at the stop, or is this, what were you intending to do when you say that staff will routinely clean up the sidewalk by the bus stop?
Yes, we would have staff that would superintend the bus stop, that would ensure the safety of the customers when they are disembarking or embarking on the buses, and as well clean after the customers.
Okay. Is this staff that probably then is riding on the bus? Perhaps the driver, or perhaps probably not the driver, but
not the driver. It should be a different staff from the driver.
But they're traveling with the bus. Just
not
next operation.
We call them dispatch officers. So they will be ahead of the bus and they will be behind the bus. They will be there before the bus and they will be there after they left.
Okay, so I actually don't have any further questions about this or concerns about these stipulations. Let's go down to the resolve clause. So I think we can cut the italics about bus labor on South Street. Yeah, and issue it, yeah. But there's a sort of a bullet point in italics above the therefore to cut. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other changes we need before we go to a vote? Can we take a roll call, please? And hang in there, we're almost done.
Joshua Waterman.
Yes.
Wendy Lee, yes. Lee Berman,
Yes.
Terry Theroux,
Yes.
Danielle Hernandez,
Yes.
Michelle Coopersbush,
No.
July Yang.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
And me, yes, too.
Oh, sorry, David Crane.
Okay, so let's go to the next one, and this is our last agenda item. And it's I already clicked through. Oh my goodness. Go New York Tours, the top few sightseeing buses. This is happening here. That's maybe not good. Go New York Tours, are you here?
Right here.
Great. Okay, so this looks like it is also a hop on, hop off kind of a operation. Is that correct?
Correct. Hop on, hop off in Manhattan. We've been in business for about 10 years. We have about 46 or 48 DOT approved bus stops, primarily in Manhattan. And we have applied for this bus stop because we are bringing some of our customers want to visit the South State Seaport, Pier 36, and that area, and we believe that will benefit them and benefit the area.
Okay, so it's the west side of Pike Slip, so people understand, like way down to the bottom of Pike and Allen Street, between Cherry and South Street. Are you already operating at that location? Or would this be?
This is a new bus stop.
This is new for you, okay. I'm gonna ask committee members and other board members if they have comments they want to ask, questions, comments. Trevor.
I've got a few, but I'll keep them short since this location is right around the corner for me. I assume when he says he's not operating at the stop, it means that he's operating on South Street, because I can see a tour bus that drops off a few hundred people every week, maybe even approaching 1,000 in a good week, because of the folks who go visit the tour boats at Pier 36. There are a couple of problems I hope that the operator can address that make it a little more complicated than just a hop on, hop off. And the number one issue is the bathrooms. Sometimes the line queues the entire block waiting for that bus. It's not just hop on, people wait there 15 minutes. A lot of them are not from the area, so they don't have a place to go to the bathroom. What we did as the Friends of Pier 35 is that we have rented a porta potty for several months. It was primarily to be for the park goers, but it has turned into the only bathroom for the tourists to use in that particular area. And it got overloaded the first 2 days we put it in there, just because of the amount of people using a bathroom. The other issue is the area is not really equipped to handle that many tourists. We've had many conversations with DOT about making it safer for pedestrians. The bus that does the drop off, drop on currently does it on South Street, and tourists cross the street in the middle of the block. In fact, one was hit a few months ago trying to cross the street. We talked to DOT many times about improving conditions for pedestrians, and I know I hope DOT is still on here, but we really haven't had any success with making that area safer for pedestrians, especially the crossing at South Street, where this bus is proposed for. The turning radius of that bus, once it goes down Pike and makes a right turn on South Street, is very narrow, primarily because tour buses are allowed to park on that section and they stick out far in the lane. And it's very difficult for a bus to make that turn. We've asked many times with DOT to remove that parking so that it could provide more space, not only for your buses, but for other vehicles who make that right turn from Pike to South Street. I'll stop right there because I'd like for the operator to address those, because I've got just 3 more.
Okay, well, the restrooms and bathrooms, we, as far as I'm aware, there are restrooms provided at Pier 36.
No, there's not.
No, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but we do have restrooms at Pier 36. Yeah, that's currently. There are restrooms at Pier 36. I would explore with the DOT if we can, if we get a bus stop, can we have no problem stationing, portable restrooms there. I'm just not sure that we can do that on the sidewalk. It's really not really, if we want to do it, it's more like, are we allowed to do it? But I'll certainly look into this and we can explore it. If that's a possibility and the DOT is okay with that, we'll definitely have a couple of them stationed there and serviced.
And just to note that we don't want them on the sidewalk. It's just that the ones that you're talking about are actually at Pier 35, the park that the tourists cross through to get to Pier 36, because they go down South Street and they go through Pier 35. There are 2 porta potties that are located there. That's at Pier 35, not Pier 36. Pier 36 does not have any bathroom facilities at the point of entry for the boat. It's only at Pier 35, and that is from the Friends of Pier 35 and our partners who have paid for that porta potty, which is originally supposed to be for park goers. But we understand, and we've left it there just because people need to go to the bathroom, and our plants at the park were being destroyed by people who had to use the bathroom. The last issue is the issue of garbage. Just because it's a very strange block, there are no garbage cans in that area. There is a person on site who tends to keep it clean, but because there are at least 4 hot dog carts which follow your tour bus, there's a lot of trash in that particular area, and the trash extends from the bus stop all the way to the tour boats at Pier 36. But they go through the park at Pier 35. That's the one with the swings. That's Pier 35, not 36, and they dump a lot of trash in that area. And we don't have any way to control that because there's no trash cans at the at your site where you're picking up the tourist.
Now that this is coming to my attention personally, we've never had anybody reach out to us with a concern or feedback, but we'll definitely look into it and ensure that if there's any trash left after our passengers get off, get on, we will definitely take care of that. We have a person.
Online. Yeah, we can speak offline now that I have your contact information, because we've been trying to contact someone, but we didn't. Since there wasn't a legal bus stop, we didn't know who to contact. We looked and we didn't see a legal bus stop, so we didn't know who was responsible for that. But we can talk offline since I know it's a little bit late and the committee has to discuss this. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. It's just a matter of mitigating some of these issues that we see that are happening right now. And just to note that the construction on the resiliency project started yesterday, which will further close off the pedestrian access on the west or south side of that street. And DOT has not come up with a plan to address the hundreds of people that you drop off and their safety walking from the drop-off point to Pier 36.
Michelle.
Thanks, David. I'm actually helping for Trevor's help with this a little bit, but Trevor, I mean, isn't that block where the sanitation facility is?
Correct, it is. It's on the same block as the Senate. It's an interesting place to drop off people, but that's not, I mean, it's also the waste disposal for chemicals and paint. But I'm not necessarily opposed to that drop-off point. I'm just talking about the impact it has on the community, primarily because, thousands of people get on and off and go to the boats, but we see no economic impact on our community.
Right, but also Josh, do you mind showing the last picture I sent you where you can kind of see how narrow the lane is closest to the sidewalk?
Let's see.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the proposed location. That's a waste disposal right there. That red is where you take your paint and chemicals to.
I'm just I know that DOT Jackie is not on anymore. I said I prefaced this last month and I was expressing my confusion about how DOT could consider this a reasonable spot, but just unless they're planning to close, it doesn't make sense to me. The area is just too narrow, just to the right of the supposed to be solid line is not wide enough for a bus.
A bus can actually, they're sometimes they operate on that corner, to be honest, because
closer to South Street.
No, that lane where the car is on the right side is where the bus would drop on and drop off. There is actually space that used to be a drop off for the layover for the 15, and now layover on the opposite side of the street. So that lane is actually wide enough for a boat. For a bus. It's just that that's also where the salt and sand shed is, where the chemical disposal is. But I won't fight this spot other than the reasons I talked about. Because they chose a very odd location. I understand this is really for the boat traffic. It's not really for the seaport. The folks, a few people will go to the seaport, but this is really, and if you've ever been there when they dropped off or picked off, there are hundreds of people who get off and look at their area and go, how do I get to the boat? But my concern is the impact on the community, mainly trash, the bathroom issue, which we haven't solved over years. And, there's a lot of tourists coming here, and that street is not timed for pedestrians because no one really thought about pedestrians crossing that street, and DOT does not prioritize pedestrians at this particular crossing.
Right, especially even crossing Cherry Street, too. It's just like a
And
weird,
they're not synced. So on one side you can cross, the other side you can't. It's just very odd. I was hoping that DOT would stay, they hear these things, but we've had 2 or 3 resolutions regarding this street, and DOT has not done anything except put more buses on the street.
Yeah. So thank you, Trevor. I think I'm inclined to disprove this, although I don't know if that makes any difference. But if we're going to approve it, perhaps we should put in there that DOT will put in trash cans and maybe signage about not using, about restrooms. I don't know. It's like a very, as Trevor said, a very, very strange block to choose. Also, just given how many curb cuts there are, there's traffic coming in and out of that facility. So I think we'd have to put in there that they must add trash cans. There's signs about where the closest restrooms are, or don't use the sidewalk as a restroom, or I don't really know if that exists as a sign, but it's just a weird spot.
Well, I'd like to work with the owner with the bathroom issue, since our tiny budget at Pier 35 is mostly spent on porta potty rentals, because there's nowhere to go to bathroom in that area. No, there isn't an option. And not only do they have to wait for the bus, and then they go and they wait for the boat, and there's no bathrooms up behind Pier 36 while they wait for the boat. So they wind up using the planning areas, which can't handle human waste, not the amount that we see on a regular basis.
I'm sure no one drinks on those boats. Lee?
First, Michelle, to your point about the sanitation drop-off point, I believe that they are only open certain times of the week, or maybe even less frequently than that. There's a sign on there that does express when they are open, and I think it's very infrequently. Now, a question for the owner. I'm sorry, I may have misunderstood. You said you are not currently using that location. You're not currently dropping or picking up people there. Is that correct?
Correct. We do operate from right around the corner on South Street, which is a bus parking area.
Okay, so actually,
so we know the area pretty well. This is on our route. It's been on our route for many months.
So then, really, to Michelle and Trevor, there are already, at least, as Trevor, as you're probably aware, there are already at a minimum 3 or 4 other companies that are picking up passengers and dropping passengers off right over there on South between Market and Pike. And so yes, the area is already inundated with people who need to use the restrooms and with the trash. So my concern is adding more. And Trevor, I wasn't aware that it was your organization that had added the porta potties there. I see people, I'm there almost every day, passing through on South Street, and see people running across South Street through traffic to get to and from the bathrooms, as well as to get to the waterfront. So I am very concerned about adding an additional company and this many buses at that location.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of problems here. I'm surprised. I mean, it's terrible, Trevor. It's just terrible that you guys are the ones that are providing a porta potty. It should be the DEC operates that as a park, right?
Yeah, just to note, we've tried, it's been years to get a bathroom, but we will not continue to have that bathroom unless we get support from those who are using it, meaning the tour boats, because that's the main problem. The ferry operator, Basketball City has chipped in, but they won't continue to chip in. That was a one-time thing. But we're trying to make sure that we can provide some basic human services for people who use the park. It's just that we did not expect for the bus route to change its drop-off point, because years ago it used to be at the Pier 36. So they only went through Pier 36, you know, that Pier 36 side, which is on Montgomery Street. Now they're coming through the park, and there are hundreds of people coming through the park every single day from the tour buses. But we will not keep that there. And it's not even, well, let's just say there are issues with keeping it there from a park's perspective because it is a porta potty.
Yeah.
But David, I think it would be unfair to ask this particular operator to chip in to aid, to fund the porta potties, but yet not ask the other operators there. I think it was great that this operator said he would volunteer to or look into that if DOT would permit him to either put his own or whatever. But I think that's asking for him to put the entire burden on his company, and I don't know that that's proper. I mean, if he wants to take that on, then I would be in favor, but I don't know if it's really fair to him.
Well, the larger question is that there's multiple operators, which Trevor was talking about, and this is a piecemeal thing that's happening. This is what happens with a lot of different issues. And it's been happening with buses. They will overload a particular location. That's not what's going on right here. Well, it kind of is actually, but sorry, applicant was trying to say something.
I just wanted to say that I would reach out to DAC NYC, which is a private company operating Pier 36 on behalf of the EDC and the City of New York. And I wouldn't want to take everything upon our company, but if other companies would agree, and with DAC NYC, we probably could definitely do something that is going to resolve the bathroom problem.
Yeah, and to Lee's point, it wouldn't be that the burden. We've talked with DAC NYC about a number of problems. We just haven't been able to reach out to the bus operators because there's a lot there, and calling that 800 number and trying to find the president or someone who's really can have an impact has been difficult. So there is a conversation going. We just did not expect for that tour bus to appear at that location and for those hundreds of people to sort of come through Pier 35. So there is a conversation going on. I primarily signed on not to hear about this, but I know what's going on, but to make sure that we have a contact point so we can have a discussion about not just bathrooms, but the overall impact to the air, and that includes trash, and finding a better way for people to cross the street safely. Because it's not safe crossing the street, as Lee mentioned. Those folks who get down South Street across in the park, they run across the street and there's no traffic controls mid-block.
Yeah. So applicant, could you, how did you arrive at this location? I had described earlier that sometimes there's a process between the applicant and the DOT to nail down what is applied for.
I have applied, I mean, our company has applied for 5 spots, and this is the spot that the DOT has approved. I don't know in what order and how they approved it, but I mean, that's my opinion. I think this is a good spot for dropping off, picking up tourists. It's there's a lot of available space. We've been operating almost right there around the corner for several months, and not a single accident has occurred so far in terms of pedestrians or vehicles. And I mean, in our opinion, that was a good location, to be honest with you.
I understand. So when you said 5, did you say you mean you applied for 5 different stops along the route, or did you mean you put forward 5 possible locations near here and they chose this one?
5 possible, yes, correct. 5 possible locations near here, and the DOT approved this one.
David, let me just add that I'm not sure if it was, because we were worried that one of the stops would be right in front of the pier, because that tour bus, or I'm not saying, there have been tour buses that dropped off in front of Pier 35, which was an absolute disaster. So that would benefit the bus and the tour companies, but not the residents who live directly across the street, because that section narrows at Pier 35 and it's a popular park. So we were a bit worried that that might be a location, and it would have been a different reaction from us. The spot itself, if the bus operator believes that's a good spot, but that's not really the issue. It's just the overall impact to the immediate community.
Let's see. Oh, so there are likely to be a series of these, of the buses that are serving this, that tourist destination. And this was the first. It's piecemeal. Well, okay, remind me then, the bad location in your opinion, because it gets narrower, that is basically right in front of Pier 35 or right in front of Pier?
There have been buses that have attempted to drop off there, and traffic, as you know, is pretty bad on South Street now. And that's not a location we'd like to ever see, right in front of that park. The other issue is the hot dog stands chase the bus wherever they move to. Initially, there were 4 at Pier 35 or on the streets. Now there's one where he has the current bus stop on South Street. But the problem is that people drink 2 bottles of water and they have to go to the bathroom because they're waiting. So if we were to choose a location, it's the least of the worst. And honestly, it's directly across from the Excel tall building. So if the folks had a problem, different story. I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't come too close to the pier or to a more residential area.
Okay, that is helpful. Committee, what do we want to do? Let's bring up the draft, and then we're going to talk about it over the draft. It's gonna. What do we want to capture in whereases, I think, to guide DOT about what the real problems are? I think we ought to do that. Whereas, complaints or, issues brought to us by every organization, they pointed out bullet points. It probably, wow, I don't see any other way that, well, it's an opportunity for us to provide that to them. I don't know how much, I don't know who will see it in this resolution. Anyway, that's an option.
It just sounds, David, I mean, there's just so much involved to make this a viable, between signage, directing people to the piers, retiming the lights to allow for pedestrian traffic, bathrooms, garbage. It just seems like a lot.
We could ask DOT to work with other agencies to improve services in this area. Well, DOT would be in charge of, let's say, the timing of the light. All the other stuff is going to be other agencies. Sanitation might put out baskets, pickup baskets on the street sidewalks. Any garbage collection inside of the park. Trevor, what have you called that? I've called it, DEC, because that's who I thought sort of built that thing. You called it.
It's Parks that maintains and services and secures the area, and also, as you know, Friends of Group.
Yeah,
but it's really not just within the park, but the route itself, from the point where they drop off or get on the bus to the park, through the park, and to the boat place.
May I say something?
Yes.
I just wanted to inform everyone that regardless if this bus stop would be, it's already approved by the DOT, regardless if the DOT would finally approve this stop or not, the customers that we have, some of the ones that we have that buy separately these boat tickets, they would end up getting to Pier 36 anyway. Why we as a bus company want a closer bus stop to the pier is just so that we have passengers that are elderly, can't walk long distances, and it's just a better service for them as they can, they don't get right next to the pier, get off right next to the pier, but they get relatively closer to the pier. So the bus stop would not really prevent traffic to the pier itself. So just wanted to make that point that it won't change the traffic going to the pier or out of the pier.
Well, my concern is not so much the pier, but Pier 35, which is the park, and it serves a low-income neighborhood. That's my concern. The buses before had dropped off actually at the pier, at Pier 36 on Montgomery Street, which did not go through a park. It went through the pier itself, and most of the tourists went through that area. I would imagine that DOT and Basketball City said no to the area because there's a school on that corner, and when they tried that, it was a complete disaster, and 2 hot dog carts got into a fight and one stabbed each other, so it was disaster. This is close, and I understand what you're saying, and if they moved it further along South Street, you would still have the traffic going there. But my issue is more about mitigating the issues that are being caused, because as you mentioned, about 3 or 4 months ago, we suddenly saw thousands of people coming through the park, and we didn't really understand why.
Trevor, could you roll off bullet points for whereas issues that should be mitigated, and we can capture them in a whereas, and then we could have a separate resolved, which says that we ask DOT to work with other agencies to address the issues that listed in the resolution, because these are, ongoing and et cetera. Could we do that?
Yeah, I just don't have perfect whereas language, but the issue of bathrooms, where there are no bathrooms, public bathrooms within the drop-off point and at Pier 36, there's one porta potty at Pier 36 on the Basketball City side, but they would never see that because they come from a different direction, and that one is never serviced. The issue of trash, I'm sorry, I'm not reading along. I wasn't trying to write that as a whereas. It's just,
I think it's good. I would like, well, we'll put it together as a list of bullet points, whereas there
okay,
are
the issue of trash, and the issue of pedestrian safety, and that's not a bus issue, that's more of a DOT issue, and they did not expect all these tourists to be coming on South Street, crossing at Cherry Street. There's no one, or not Cherry Street, crossing at South and Pike Slip.
pedestrian safety crossing crossing South Street at Pike Slip.
Right.
So whereas the cluster of tourist buses operating in this immediate area have caused problems with the number of tourists who are destined to the boats behind Pier 36, right? So this is what the issue is. So
right.
So this is a lead into it. This is really the whereas. The cluster of tourist bus stops, so that they are creating the following issues that we need to say it that way. Whereas
I
there's
think disconnected in the middle. I'm so sorry. What did you say?
Okay, this cluster through the end here, it's really whereas.
Say?
It's the beginning of the whereas that we're in. You've got the other three things are going to be bullet points of where I want it. Whereas, good. Whereas there's a cluster of tourist buses operating in this immediate area, which have been causing problems because of the number of tourists. let's say traveling to the boat operators, the boats operating behind Pier 36. All right, and then, colon and a bullet point list. And then above, you have basically captured what we want to make as 3 bullet points. Bathrooms, trash, pedestrian safety crossing. So you can pull those lines down below and make those bullet points.
But you wanted me to make these the bullet points for
Yeah.
the whereas downstairs.
Or
Okay.
the next whereas, correct. You can cut it, there you go, there you go. Okay, so let's make these sentences. There are no public bathrooms in this area. Yeah, there's no public
area, just
bathrooms
only?
in this
Okay.
area, and tourists are Trevor, they're waiting a while for their boats, for the boat or for the bus, and they need restrooms. And the city needs to be providing, which the city needs to provide, or has not provided. Yeah, which is.
Well, maybe you can add this. I know they were looking at a pilot to bring some of those bathrooms that it had in storage to sites in the city. It got some traction a few months ago with the mayor's office. DOT was supposed to, and they were looking at sites. If they could, this was supposed to be a site they're looking at, but I haven't heard anything about that in months, ever since they announced it. The whole public bathroom issue.
Right. I'll hold that thought, but I think this may be enough to get them to make the connection. Next one, issue of trash. The tourists, there's food services, it's a concession, but maybe it's not a concession. Food vendors, are providing services to the tourists, but there's insufficient trash receptacles or pickup. Can we say it that way? There are food vendors providing, services to the tourists, but there is insufficient. And it's both receptacles and pickup. I don't know what they call it exactly, but there's receptacles and service. They service waste baskets, yeah, and service. All right, issue pedestrian safety crossing. So pedestrian, it's really the whole stretch. I mean, I don't know if it's safe to cross South Street, especially, or do you want to really focus on the location at Pike Slip, Trevor?
At Pike Slip, primarily because there are 2 resolutions that deal with all of those crossings that we've tried to get DOT to act on, and they just haven't moved.
Okay. So
the standard that they're going to need, and I don't want that standard to happen.
The corner of pedestrian crossing at Pike Slip, pedestrians crossing South Street at Pike Slip, pedestrians crossing South Street at Pike Slip cannot cross safely at. Pedestrians cannot cross safely at the beginning, sorry. Pedestrians cannot cross South Streets, however you phrase it, make it grammatical, and then we'll describe why it's unsafe. Okay, and Pike Slip. So the reasons there are
non-technical terms, the timing is off. It's not really designed for dozens of people to cross. So
Okay.
people get caught in the lanes and all this other.
there's
I don't know the
insufficient
technical
crossing
terms.
time. There probably, I don't know how much traffic there is there. There's things called leading pedestrian indicator, which Michelle described pretty well the other day as like a green light. Forget what it was, but Insufficient crossing times. Do we want to add more to that or not? Okay. Line period 36. Let's go back to the colon leading into this. Let's put a period and let's say these issues should be addressed. The following issues should be addressed. When this is when this stop is goes into operation. You know, I can hear Susan now saying, that's a different agency. She's not on the call, but we'll try to address that with a separate whereas. So I think this is good. It states the issues. Like I said, I don't even know if this is going to hit the right people in the right agencies. But if we go down to the whereas is, let's do it therefore further resolved. Well, recommends, all right, so here we are. Can we cut and paste approval from above? From a different resolution?
While he's doing that, David, do you put in, and you can say you don't, reach out or work with the community to address these issues?
To ask DOT and
No,
agencies?
for the operator.
Well, these mostly aren't coming from the operator.
No, I know, but some of these we think we can mitigate with the discussion with the operator if we get them all on board. Because they have a contract with Dock NYC, I imagine, because they're selling tickets at Midtown to tourists to come down to Pier 36. But if not, it's fine. We'll see if Dock NYC and Asen, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, is able to discuss, because there are some solutions that are not that big a deal, you know, and telling people where to cross and, you know, providing there's an operator who stands there. I guess he helps people get on the bus. They should be helping pick up some of that trash, at least the one around the bus area.
Trevor,
We can certainly add aware, sorry.
so I just want to tell Trevor that as long as we get in contact and we get feedback, as long as there's some contact, I think we'll do a lot better than what, I mean, I also believe that many of these problems can be just, you know, fixed by us, by the operator. I don't know that we're the only operator, but whatever is up to us, we will definitely work with you. And I'm not sure how can I provide my contact and where, but I
think it's on the application.
Okay.
It just went into the public domain, by the way. Any application you supply to the board will be posted on the website, so he's got it. There are three things. We were so bogged down here, guys. I'm sorry. There are three things that I think we need to complete here. I'm just going to state them. We need to talk about the stipulations because they weren't signed off, and see what we can stick in here. We need to stick in a whereas further resolved. I mean, a further resolve that asks, I think that we ask DOT to work with other agencies to deal with the things we listed, because none of them are DOT. And then the third thing we need to do here, three things in my head. I had a paragraph asking the applicant to work with Trevor, the name of the organization we'll add here, to encourage him to work with you. Exactly what you were saying. But not as some sort of a condition, but we'll just add it as encouraging him, and he will, I can tell.
Yeah.
So the stipulations, let's do those three things in a row. Try to get this knocked off. The stipulations, so we had I need to bring up the application again. There it is. There were a bunch of agreements. If there's a storefront, which there's not, tickets will be sold online or designated ticket agency. Maybe Wendy, are you able to bring up the application? I think that he linked it here in the chat. In the chat screen, if you can bring that up in your browser, then we can be talking about these. It'll probably launch outside the browser. But the stipulations are right there. We can talk about them that way.
Let me check.
Section I'm thinking it's roughly the middle of the 4th page of the PDF.
Middle of the 4th page, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This one?
Those are they. I am about to go back to, I think a previous one had already, that applicant checked off every single one. Applicant, are these things that you actually would agree to?
I'm sorry, say it again, please.
These things that are now on the screen, I agree to the following stipulations. You can see them with boxes. Those were check marks. Are you agreeing to those? They're checked off. Maybe you just maybe you are agreeing to them.
I mean, I'm sure we can agree to most of them for sure. Yeah, we can agree to the cleaning, trash, buses will keep schedules, number of buses at this stop will not exceed the stated number that we can agree to. All buses purchased will have diesel emissions. Actually, I may have agreed to these, and then I had to resend another application, and that's probably why these are not checked.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only one is that if the storefront is not, that's not applicable here.
That's not applicable. Yeah, there'll be no storefront.
So let's tick the language for all but the top one. We have them in other resolutions, or we have them. Can you cut and paste these out of the PDF, or do we have them in a previous location? Yep, looks like we do. You can cut and paste that entire paragraph because the whereas as well. I'm not sure you grab the whereas sentence at the top of it.
Do you want it in here too, or like in the same one, or?
Yeah, the last one.
Like a different whereas, right?
No, let's put it, because yeah, a different one, but above this one.
Okay, okay.
Exactly. Thank you. That was one of the 3 things that I said we needed to deal with. Paragraph, we want to add now 2 whereas clauses at the bottom. So therefore be it resolved. So 2 further resolved clauses. Got one. Okay, that right. That CB3 polite, I guess, but we CB3 asks DOT to work with other agencies such as, well, they can do with some of it, but to work to address the issues explained, the issues above. Put in parentheses, lack of bathrooms, lack of trash receptacles, and unsafe pedestrian crossing. At close parentheses, before, well, or work with other agencies to do so. Because I know that 2 of them are going to be parks, right? Probably we should just say Parks Department. To address to mitigate problems caused by this operator and others in the area, period. We
Sorry,
may,
I lagged out in the middle. Could you say that one more time?
or work with notices to do so, to mitigate problems caused by tourist buses in this area. In this period. I can tell you that Susan is going to tell me there's a better way to handle it, and that will be fine. We can do it as a subsequent resolution next month, let's say, or the month after. Okay? Trevor will look forward to that too. And then we need a whereas that says CB3 encourages resolve. CB3 encourages the applicant, and the name of the company is, you've got it somewhere here, to work with ongoing. So, work in an ongoing manner with Trevor, the organization.
Friends of Pier 35.
To address, this and other issues that may come up. To ensure a smooth operation with minimal impact. Is that kind of what you're looking for, Trevor?
Yeah, because as you mentioned, a lot of these can be mitigated, assuming the operator is willing, fairly, not all of them, but like we can't change the timing of the streets or the lights, but we can address some of the other issues.
Right. So is this good? Is there anything else we need? Is the committee ready to vote then? Yes, let's take a vote. And this will work as our final vote too, because there's no other business. So this will be also attendance. Thank you.
Okay. Should I go, should I have you go last?
Please.
Joshua Waterman,
Yes.
Wendy Lee, yes. Lee Berman,
Yes.
Tariq Darrow,
Yes.
Kenya Hernandez,
Yes.
Michelle Coopersmith,
No.
David Louie, Richard Ropiak, July Yang,
Yes.
David Crane.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, everyone. It was a long meeting tonight. I'm sorry about that. And thank you, Josh, for preparing for those bus applications. And we are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.